So today we had the developer live stream for some insight into episode Revenant, as well as beyond that into codename Apollo and Frontiers. And let's just say there's a lot of information here. So buckle in, grab a snack, grab a drink. We're going to talk about all of it and maybe do some thoughts in between. So there's this new variant of Onslaught with the addition of the Dark Legion, the Shadow Legion Cabal being introduced into the waves, as well as Scorn, another possibility. Some of these updates I'm going to mention will be applicable to regular Onslaught. I believe there's going to be a different playlist that you can go into, and there is a new map in Widow's Court as well. I'm not sure if there's another map. I might have missed that, but I would hope. But one map is certainly a good enough addition for now. So we're going to start with most of the Onslaught stuff here. The trip mines are getting some updates. They will now slow with stasis slow, so you can kind of put that into your build. This is supposed to be a stasis episode, so everyone get your stasis builds ready for that. Renewal grasps, anyone? Osmiomancy gloves. I mean, the list goes on. There's also a new air cannon turret. It has mortar strikes. Use the laser to pin down a certain area that you'd like to protect. It'll leave kind of like a Templar ring, if you remember what that is from Vault of Glass, just like a ring. And once an enemy enters that ring, the airstrike will come down and promptly delete whatever is in that area. At least I hope so. And so that's cool. Also, an update to the regular turrets. They will have more health and whatnot once they're leveled up, but they will also scorch once you get them to that max level as well. So you can build into that with some of your ignition builds or scorching builds, whatever suits your fancy. That is certainly a fun thing to do, to focus on upgrading those turrets and continue to build into that. There is a new breach loading grenade launcher. It is an exotic stasis breach loading grenade launcher, and it has the ability to launch out special and heavy ammo depending on the stacks you build up of its exotic perk. It seems pretty interesting. I love how they mentioned in the live stream we don't have really much in the way of ammo support when Cenotaph users exist. I respect you, Cenotaph users. God bless you. And certainly, I mean, you could use this with Cenotaph because you could run a trace rifle in your secondary, but that might be a little overkill, or even Aeon safe. Those are both kind of overkill. We'll have to see how practical the ammo economy is with this weapon, if it's better to just run something like Cenotaph, but it is definitely cool to have another breach loading grenade launcher. Speaking of those archetype of weapons, there's only one other primary breach loader in the game, and of course that's Fighting Lion. That is going to get a buff with destabilizing rounds, which, listen, I know people love their Fighting Lion in PvP and whatnot, but now there will be a reason to use it outside of PvP. And listen, it's a stasis episode or season, whatever you want to call it, but it also is definitely a grenade launcher season. We will have the return of Breach and Clear, which of course allows you to weaken targets with your grenade launcher. And listen, Anarchy, is it going to be usable? Maybe. Triple grenade launchers, anyone? I think so. That seems to be the case. Also, as you'll see, or maybe you've seen already in some of this footage that I've recorded of the live stream, there is the tonic boost, which you can use. It reminds me a lot of the opulence artifact or the opulence attunement system. So you can use these tonics to boost your artifact perks, which is a really cool concept. I like this. So you can build into certain artifact mods. And you can also use it to attune 2 different seasonal or episodic weapons. The cool thing about these weapons this episode is that they are not craftable. And the deeper you get into Onslaught, and especially on higher difficulties, you will have a shot to get essentially a shiny episodic weapon, which is a really cool concept. And I was talking to this with some friends that they should also bring back shiny weapons as like a small chance to drop in the later rounds, just to give you a little bit of extra incentive. But I understand, I mean, this is really a cool way to kind of say to the community, we're listening. We know crafting is just a really good entryway into getting those end game weapons, but also we need to have balance in the fact that you should be able to chase some weapons, and there needs to be that chase for people to have a reason to play these game modes. And that's certainly what made Onslaught so enjoyable in Into the Light was, you had all these weapons that were extremely good. And although I believe we're getting drip fed these weapons again, I could be wrong, so don't quote me on this. I didn't really research that part because I was too busy with all the information in this live stream. There's a lot. But if we aren't getting drip fed the weapons again, that would be nice. But I understand it from a gameplay perspective. You need to have people coming back. And if this is true, now this is just speculation, so bear with me here. They mentioned early in the live stream that there is an old, venerable Elixni who's going to be joining the seasonal story, alongside, of course, Crow, who used to, be Aldrin and quite literally made Fickrel what he is, or helped to. Mithrax and Ido of House Lay. Obviously, their Elixni ties bring them into the fold for this story. But also, there's someone we haven't seen in a while, and I think anyone who's played, Beyond Light or Destiny 1 knows that I'm talking about Varix. And they also teased the return of a fan-favorite activity, and with how dry the PvE landscape has been, with the exception of Onslaught, I think the reintroduction of Prison of Elders, I mean, there's never been a better time to do it, because you add another endgame activity into the loop. You already have a dungeon coming out with contests, which hopefully that's good. Outside of contests anyways, there's a challenge hopefully in that dungeon. Of course, you have Onslaught, which has Expert, and I don't know how hard that's going to be with all these updates. It seems like we're going to be pretty well off in Onslaught, and it might be almost too easy, if you know what I'm saying. Like Legend Onslaught, at least right now, is pretty easy depending on your skill level, but with the upgrades and whatnot, it seems like it'll be a little bit smoother, so to speak. But either way, Prison of Elders, depending on how things work, would be a really interesting addition. I can see it getting kind of old really fast, but that kind of happened with Onslaught just because there wasn't a lot to chase. So it really depends on what the rewards are, how challenging is it. And, listen, I'm all for it. I've asked for this for a very long time. It makes sense because this is an Elixni score and heavy season, and maybe Varix is trying to help his fellow Elixni by trapping some of these Revenant barons, and maybe he is also trying to rehabilitate them, because the Elixni are not they're few and far between, right? They had the whole problem with their collapse. So what better rehab, I'm saying, than getting your ass handed to you by a bunch of guardians over and over again? Truly, that worked out with Skolas, right? But it would make sense, and I would really like to see that happen anyways, because we haven't really seen Varix's story wrapped up. He was integral in stopping Aramis in Beyond Light, and he was supposed to serve some prison time for his role in getting rid of Cade, or at least he was kind of an accomplice, so to speak. But I would assume that maybe that's what he's been doing since we last saw him in Beyond Light. But again, we haven't really seen much in the way of Varix in any facet of the game. So again, it would be very interesting to see if that is the case. And yes, the fan favorite activity has already been snubbed for SRL. There's no SRL, so don't get your hopes up there. I truly wish they would bring it back, because it's really a non-PvE PvP activity, and it's one of the few in the game, because you think of all the other events we have. Festival of the Lost has the haunted sectors, which are really overdone and boring at this point. Hopefully there's some innovation there. Solstice has Bonfire Bash. Dawning has, you're just baking cookies, but what are you doing to bake the cookies? You have to go play all the playlist stuff that you normally play, right? So it's, again, it's rehashed content. So hopefully, there's a little something different this year, little twists here and there to make those events more interesting. To be completely honest, I don't care for playing the events that much anymore. I'm way more excited about this stuff. So if Prison of Elders is indeed what they bring back, I would prefer that to SRL, because SRL would only be around for like 1 month a year. Prison of Elders is something they can update like Onslaught and try to keep that relevant. There's going to be a double fire slug shotty, which looks really cool. I kind of miss the slug shotty meta that we had back in Beyond Light, and it would be cool to see that come back. I know that shotguns are in the artifact for anti-barrier, so with that in mind as well, shotties could see a way back into the meta. We'll have to see how good this slug shotty is, but it's definitely an interesting archetype to introduce into the game. And overall, I just have to say the aesthetic so far, at least like the concept art or the key art for Revenant, looks really cool. I hope we are returning to the Tangled Shore in this kind of like creepy vampire barren Revenant nest. Like, that would be so cool, even if it's just from the release of this episode until Apollo comes out. It'd be really cool to have a new destination, even if it's just a temporary one to explore, i.e. kind of like the Leviathan back in Season of the Haunted, with how you could explore that. That was kind of like a mini Pale Heart. It was really a cool concept, and I know a lot of people would prefer it to stick around, and I don't blame you, but I think we have enough patrol areas in the game that adding a new one permanently wouldn't be, that great of an idea, although that seems to be the case in Apollo, which we'll get to that in a little bit. For those of you who did not play the Guardian games last time around, or did not earn the skimmer, there will be a new earnable skimmer from Xur, which you can get for 97 strange coins from Xur. So if you're desperate for a skimmer, which I highly recommend, they're just better than sparrows in every way imaginable, save up those strange coins now so that you can buy the Xurf board. And for Festival of the Lost, they previewed the wizard armor sets. There's kind of like the two wizard sets for Hunter and Warlock, and the good wizard set for the Titans, which is, you do you, boo. Alright, so that brings us to the second segment of what was talked about in Frontiers, with Frontiers coming. Kind of just a base line of what to expect. So if you were just here for stuff about Revenant, most of this at this point is going to be about Apollo and beyond. So these expansions, we were told, are going to be medium-sized, and, it's kind of like that happy zone, not too big, not too small, wink, wink, you know what I mean. Rise of Iron size for people who played that. That's going to be the size of Apollo and Behemoth. They're also trying to do Dreaming City / Pale Heart post-campaign experiences that, kind of allure you to this different area of the game that you unlock towards the end of the campaign that you haven't explored that much, but there's still more stuff to do in. Still very much going on the Metroidvania style of gameplay. You control the story, you go where you want to, you do it when you want to, there's no gatekeeping, meant to help with the pacing and keep you focused on the main story. And not just in Apollo, but in Revenant, we are finally going to see, at least hopefully, I hope this isn't fake news, but we will see, there's going to be less and less of heading to vendor X, and then you have to go talk to vendor Y, hand something in to vendor Z. It's going to be less of that and more so go do your own thing, explore, stay out in the world that Bungie has created. instead of spending your time in loading screens and on social destinations, which is a very nice change of pace because nobody wants to be talking to Ikora for 3 minutes when you could be doing literally anything else, especially when she's not actually talking to you. She's just giving you an item and you're walking away. Like no one wants to do that anymore. It's a very boring gameplay loop. Essentially, the gist of Apollo is that you will be exploring the new destination for powerful abilities to solve a mystery at the heart of a new planet. And the Apollo kind of is described as you enter this mysterious mansion and you have to find the secret door. You have to pull the book, you have to pull the statue, and find the entrance to the real expansion, not the fake one. Finally, something interesting about armor, because I talked about in a more recent video how armor is just not fun to chase. There's a lot of things that aren't fun to chase in Destiny right now. But one of them is certainly the fact that armor is just pointless aside from stats. So, in the next-gen armor that's coming out for Frontiers, there will be new build crafting identities. The example that was used on stream is that you can build more into like Tex Mechanica guns. So like your step bonus will build into Tex Mechanica. I can imagine maybe it's something like plus 20 handling when you have a Tex Mechanica gun on. Kind of like origin traits for armor, which is a really good idea. And you can mix and match these because you only need 2 or 4 pieces of this armor for the bonuses to kick in. So say you want to run Tex Mechanica guns, or like one Tex Mechanica gun, but you also want to run an Into the Light weapon, and maybe there's one that buffs the origin trait Indomitability. Maybe there's one that boosts like solar damage, and you want to run like a Scorch build or something like that. That's the gist that we were given. There's going to be less stats in general, so that you don't have to have like these dump stats that mean nothing, right? Like say you're building into discipline and resilience, but you have a piece that's 20 discipline, 20 resil, but 10 mobility. You don't need that 10 mobility, so wouldn't you rather have it, split between the other 2 that you're building into? I think that's kind of the vibe and the strategy they're going for, so that you're not having like, you want 100 resil, you want 100 discipline, you don't need, strength or whatever else. Also, finally, it's not just a glitch, because there was a glitch with recovery for PvP players. If you had 140 recovery, I think you recovered a little bit faster, which in PvP is everything. And edgelords were edging that recup. But now that will actually matter. The example used on the stream yet again was for every bit you go over, like say 100 strength, there's a chance that when your melee comes back, you'll get a second melee charge. I can imagine that would work similarly for grenades, maybe class abilities as well. We'll have to see how that cooks up as well with the other stats that are in the game. But it's definitely a cool concept to allow people who maybe want to build heavily into one category and just, especially for Titans who have melee builds, that's like an incredibly nice way to get like double melees without specifically having an exotic or specific class equipped. Also for you auto rifle lovers, Chroma Rush is returning. That was talked about as well. I'll read off some more set bonuses here that were released in an Insight article that I will also link in the description if you want to go read the whole thing about next gen armor. So we talked about the Tex Mechanica one, which perk 1 is, while shooting from the hip, you have increased movement, speed, and weapon handling. Effects increases when you score hits. I promise I did not pre-read this. I actually did say the handling thing without reading it first, but it made sense. Perk 2 is going to be Tex Mechanica weapons have increased range and accuracy when hip fired. I can see that definitely being a menace in PvP. You also have non-stop aggression. Final blows with freshly reloaded weapons heal you. That's like diet heal clip. That's nice. Perk 2, damaging a target with a shotgun or fusion rifle increases the damage it takes from those weapons for a short time. Demolitions Expert. Perk 1, direct hits with explosive weapons temporarily increase their reload speed. Perk 2, repeated direct hits with explosive weapons temporarily increase grenade ability damage. That's nasty. Vanguard Operative. Perk 1, activating your grenade gives you and nearby allies damage resistance against combatants. And perk 2, defeating champions with a grenade finisher generates special ammo for you and your fire team. I can see Vanguard Operative and Demolitions Expert going hand in hand. Non-stop aggression, I really don't know if that's the best. I mean, the perk 1's really good. Perk 2 would certainly have its applications as well. But overall, this is a very exciting thing to see happen. Just a little tidbit. Old legendary armor is gonna probably stay the same, and that's whatever. Exotic armor as well won't be part of the initial update for this system, so it'll just be legendary armor for now. But again, this will make legendary armor worth chasing again, because these bonuses are actually worthwhile. Again, origin traits for armor is the best way I can describe it, and origin traits for guns have quite literally changed the way weapons work. It's why I always say, you know, you can use sunset weapons for nostalgia, but just practically any other new gun with an origin trait is better because you can enhance it and origin traits exist. So this will more than likely make most old armor obsolete as well. So, I mean, we'll have to wait and see just how good these bonuses are, but it's definitely an exciting thing to think about. I am more excited about episode Revenant after today than I was before, for obvious reasons, and I'm very, very happy to see Onslaught getting that update, because it is single-handedly the best PvE mode that has been released in a very long time. I would argue since Prison of Elders, which again makes a perfect sense as to why they would bring that back as well, to kind of shake up PvE in general, because strikes are getting boring, especially Grandmasters, at least for the hardcore community. I know maybe some people might struggle with them still, that's fine. There is a bit of a learning curve to them, but usually once you get down a GM where everything spawns and stuff, it's generally pretty easy to do. Whereas learning new spawns and doing new things in Onslaught and Prison of Elders it's new, and that's the biggest thing about it. Of course, you know, just like with people getting sick of Onslaught with Into the Light, that'll happen here as well eventually. But I think there's enough replayability, and simply the fact that these weapons drop with double perks will give people a reason to come back and play. And it's very cool. I kind of wish they would have the season pass exotic drop from Onslaught as well, but I understand you need to have a baseline of loot for people to just get, and some loot for people to chase as well. So we'll see how this all shakes out. Probably do some more coverage. I am going on vacation soon, so I will not be playing Revenant right away. I will be doing more coverage when I come back. I believe the 14th, 15th, I'll probably have some more stuff out, and I'll be streaming some Revenant stuff as well. So go and follow me on my Twitch if you want to see that when I'm there. I might play a little bit on vacation, but I'm going to try to avoid that. Anyways, thanks for watching. Let me know your thoughts on everything down below, and I'll see you guys in the next one.